The city of Varan Coast looked calm from the outside. Tall white towers, bright markets, clean stone roads, and a wide sea that shined like blue glass. Travelers often said it was the safest place in the region. Merchants loved it, ships loved it, and most races lived here in peace. But there was one truth everyone in Varan Coast knew. The city hated orcs. Not a little. Not quietly. But deeply, loudly, and proudly. If an orc walked through the gate, guards followed him. If an orc stopped to buy food, shopkeepers watched his hands like he was stealing. If he spoke, people stepped back as if his voice alone was a threat. People said orcs were violent. People said orcs were born angry. People said orcs had no place in a civilized city. And in Varan Coast, no one questioned this belief, until the day everything changed. The golem everyone loved. The city had a clay golem called Old Bricker. No one knew who made it. No one knew how old it was. Some people said a master mage built it hundreds of years ago. Others said it was found buried in the ruins under the docks. But Old Bricker was useful, strong, and kind. It carried heavy cargo from the ships. It repaired walls damaged by storms. It even played little games with children, letting them sit on its shoulders while it walked slowly. People treated Old Bricker like a citizen. So when Old Bricker was destroyed, the whole city went mad. The accusation. It happened late in the afternoon. A fisherman ran into the marketplace shouting, "Old Bricker is destroyed. An orc killed it." Before anyone asked questions, before any guard checked the scene, before a single witness gave a clear statement, the people screamed for blood. Hundreds rushed toward the docks. The council was notified. Guards were armed. And in the middle of the broken clay pieces of Old Bricker, they found a single orc sitting on the ground, shaking, holding his burned arm. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't running. And he wasn't holding any weapon. But that didn't matter. The people had already decided he was guilty. Crowd rage. By the time the guards reached him, a crowd had gathered. Men shouted. Women threw stones. Children cried because Old Bricker was gone. The orc tried to speak, but the noise drowned him out. "Kill him," someone shouted. "He destroyed a citizen," another yelled. "He's a monster. He should be executed." The guards dragged the orc away. He didn't resist. Maybe he was too injured to resist, or maybe he knew resistance would only make things worse. The captain of the guard looked at the crowd and nodded. "Don't worry. The council will deal with him." Everyone knew what that meant. The city council had never shown mercy to orcs. The council prepares the judgment. Inside the grand stone hall, the council met at once. Their leader, Councillor Tryon, slammed his hand on the table. "Open a public trial. The orc will be found guilty and executed. No delay." Another councillor asked, "What about evidence?" "We don't need evidence," Tryon said. "The people know what happened. Old Bricker wouldn't attack first." That was the belief, unstoppable, unquestioned. A few guards tried to speak, saying the orc looked confused, maybe even afraid, but Tryon waved them off. "Orcs always pretend. We will show the city that justice is swift." They ordered the arena to be prepared for the trial. A human arrives. At the city gate, a single traveler walked in. A human man, wearing simple gray robes, a writing board on his back, and a bag full of scrolls by his side. His name was Eric Solon, a scholar from the Human Empire. Most people ignored him, too busy shouting about the upcoming execution. But Eric listened carefully, watching the angry faces, the crowds carrying banners, and the guards trying to control the chaos. He whispered to himself, "Strange, humans fear orcs for strength, but this looks like fear of truth." He continued walking, following the sound of shouting until he reached the docks, now sealed by guards. Broken clay pieces were everywhere. Marks on the ground. Burnt stones. A strange smell in the air, like hot metal. Eric knelt down, touching the burned marks. "This doesn't look like damage from an orc fist," he murmured. A guard noticed him. "What are you doing, human?" "Studying," Eric said calmly. "I am a scholar of law. I heard an execution is coming." "Yes, the orc who killed Old Bricker." Eric smiled faintly. "Are you sure the orc killed it?" The guard frowned. "Everyone knows he did." "But knowing and proving," Eric said softly, "are two very different things." The guard looked confused, unsure how to answer. Eric stood up. "I would like to see the prisoner." The first silence. For the first time since the disaster, someone had spoken without anger. Without fear. Without hate. Just calm logic. And that calmness felt dangerous. The guard hesitated, glancing at the other soldiers. "No one has asked to see the prisoner," he said slowly. Then I will be the first, Eric replied. As he walked with the guards toward the holding cells, the crowd continued to scream for execution outside. But somewhere deep inside the stone corridors, change had already begun. Because the moment the human arrived, the city's certainty began to crack. The holding cells beneath Varan Coast were cold, narrow, and dark. Only one torch burned in the long hallway, giving the stone walls a deep orange glow. Most prisoners kept their heads down, but today only one cell mattered. The orc sat alone. He was large like all orcs, broad shoulders, thick arms, heavy jaw, but his eyes looked nothing like the stories people told. They were not wild, not angry, not violent. They were scared. When Eric Solon, the human scholar, stepped into the hallway, the guard whispered to him, "Be careful. Orcs are unpredictable." Eric didn't answer. He simply stepped closer, stopping in front of the iron bars. The orc raised his head slowly. There was confusion in his eyes. And pain. And something else, something Eric didn't expect. Hope. It was faint, but it was there. A question no one ever asked. Eric spoke softly, "Do you know why you're here?" The orc blinked as if surprised someone was actually talking to him. No, he said. His voice was rough but not threatening. "I woke up. Everything burning. People shouting. Then guards. So you don't remember destroying the golem?" Eric asked. The orc shook his head hard. "I did not attack it. It attacked me first." The guard outside scoffed. "Lies. Orcs always lie." Eric raised a hand to stop him and kept his eyes on the orc. "What is your name?" The orc hesitated, then said, "Grumak, son of Ruel." "Grumak," Eric repeated. "Tell me everything." Slowly. And for the first time, someone listened to the orc's side of the story. The orc's story. Grumak took a deep breath. "I came to work. Dockmaster said he needed help lifting crates. I worked all morning, no trouble." Eric nodded. Then? Grumak frowned, trying to remember. "I saw old Bricker. It was carrying a huge crate. Too heavy. Its runes were glowing strange, too bright. Then it stopped moving and turned toward me." Eric leaned closer. "Turned toward you?" "Yes. With the crate still on its back. Its eyes flashed red. It charged." The guard shook his head. "Golems don't attack without orders." But Eric wasn't listening to the guard. His mind was racing. And then? Grumak lifted his burned arm. "It hit me. Hard. I fell." It tried again. Something inside it exploded. Fire, heat, then nothing. Eric's eyes narrowed. Clay golems didn't explode. And they didn't flash red. And they certainly didn't attack without cause. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Human logic begins. Eric turned to the guard. "Was this story recorded?" "No. Orcs don't deserve interviews," the guard said. Eric closed his eyes slowly, holding back a sigh. "And what about evidence? Did anyone check the golem's runes? Or the ground marks?" The guard looked uncomfortable. "The council said it wasn't needed." Eric stepped back from the cell and spoke in a calm, firm voice. "Then the council made a mistake." The guard stiffened. "Watch what you say, human." "I always watch," Eric replied coolly. "I also think." The guard didn't understand the insult, but Eric didn't explain. Instead, he studied the burn on Grumak's arm. The shape was strange. Not a hand mark. Not a punch. Not any wound a golem should cause. Looked like a rune burn, which meant the explosion came from inside the golem. Not from an orc attack. A dangerous declaration. Eric turned to the guard. "I want access to the golem's remains. Now." The guard stared at him. "Why?" "Because if I don't investigate," Eric said, "you may execute an innocent being." The guard looked shocked. People never used the word innocent and orc in the same sentence. Finally, the guard said, "I'll ask the captain." He hurried away, clearly unsure what to do. Eric smiled faintly and turned back to Grumak. "They are afraid," he said. Grumak frowned. "Afraid? Of me?" "No," Eric replied. "Of the truth." Whispers spread through the city. Word spread fast in Varan Coast. A human is defending the orc. A human wants an investigation. A human is asking questions the council avoided. Some laughed. Some got angry. Some grew nervous. Counselor Tryon heard the rumors within the hour. He slammed his fist on the table. Who gave him access? Who allowed him into the cells? A trembling guard replied. He said he was a scholar. He asked too many questions. Tyrion's face darkened. Questions, he growled, are dangerous. Eric at the scene of the crime. At the docks, Eric knelt again. Guards stood nearby, confused by his calm focus. He traced the burnt marks on the stone. Circular. Layered. Not random. This is not an orc footprint, he said. He picked up a broken rune piece from old Bricker's shattered arm. It hummed. It's still charged, he whispered. Golems didn't hold charge after death. Unless someone overloaded it. Or sabotaged it. Or reprogrammed it. Eric stood slowly, his eyes cold. This was no accident. Someone did this on purpose. The first piece of truth. As Eric prepared to gather more evidence, a low rumble came from the crowd watching him. A woman shouted, "Why is a human defending a monster?" A man added, "Humans think they're smarter than us. He's protecting the killer." The anger grew. Banners waved. Voices rose. And Eric realized one thing. The city didn't want truth. They wanted a simple story. A simple villain. A simple execution. But Eric wasn't going to allow that. He looked at the crowd with sharp, fearless eyes. "If you fear truth," he said quietly, "then you fear yourselves." His words didn't silence the crowd. But they did something more important. They made the council afraid. Because a human, calm, logical, and stubborn, was about to turn the entire case upside down. And the city had no idea what was coming next. Morning came fast, and the entire city of Varan Coast felt like a boiling pot. Every street buzzed with voices. Market stalls were empty. Schools were closed. Workers abandoned their jobs. Because today was the trial of the orc. Not a legal trial. Not a fair trial. But a public execution disguised as justice. People gathered in the arena, waving banners with painted words like, "Justice for Old Bricker," and "Kill the Monster." They didn't come to listen. They came to watch someone die. The arena of judgment. The arena was built like a giant circle of stone seats around a flat stage. In the center, a single stone pillar stood, used for chaining criminals during public punishment. Guards dragged Grumak the orc toward it. His hands were tied, his face bruised, his arm burned, and his eyes tired. But he did not fight. He did not push. He did not growl. He walked like someone who had already accepted his fate. People threw small stones as he passed. Some spit. Some cursed. Some laughed. To them the trial was already over. The council arrives. When the council entered the arena, the crowd roared with approval. 12 members in long violet robes took their seats on the raised platform. Counselor Tryon sat in the center, wearing a golden chain. His eyes were sharp, filled with confidence. He stood and raised his hands. "People of Varan Coast," he announced, "we gather today to punish the orc who destroyed our beloved old Bricker." The crowd cheered wildly. Tryon smiled. This was exactly what he wanted: power, fear, control. He did not expect anyone to challenge him. Not today. Not ever. A human steps forward. Tryon continued, "Before we begin, we will allow the accused to speak, though his guilt is." A calm voice interrupted. "I object." The arena fell silent for a moment. People turned their heads. Guards froze. Even Grumak looked up in surprise. Eric Solon, the human scholar, walked into the arena carrying a scroll and a small wooden board. He moved slowly, confidently, as if he wasn't afraid of thousands of eyes watching him. Tryon stared at him with cold annoyance. "And who," Tryon asked sharply, "is interrupting the council?" Eric bowed politely. "I am Eric Solon, a legal scholar from the Human Empire. I believe this trial has no truth, no logic, and no honor." The crowd gasped. A few people booed. One woman shouted, "Sit down, human. We want justice." Eric looked up calmly. "That is why I am here. To find justice." Tryon tries to shut him down. Tryon slammed his hand on the table. "This is not your city. You have no authority." Eric smiled gently. "But I have questions. And I believe justice begins with questions." Tryon narrowed his eyes. Questions were the one thing he couldn't control. Eric continued, "I request the right to defend the accused." The arena exploded with noise. Why defend an orc? He killed old Bricker. Humans are crazy. Let him die too. Tryon raised his hand for silence. "This is not a real trial," he said. "It is a sentencing ceremony. The verdict is already decided." Eric tilted his head. "Interesting. A verdict without investigation? Without evidence?" Tryon leaned forward. "The whole city saw the destroyed golem. But no one saw Grumak strike it," Eric replied. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. For the first time, doubt appeared. The first evidence. Eric opened his scroll and pointed to it. I studied the scene of the attack. The burn marks are circular, layered, and rune-shaped. This is not the pattern of an orc strike. Orc fists do not make magic burns. The people fell quiet. Eric then held up a piece of clay rune he found earlier. This rune fragment is still charged with magic. Golems lose charge after death. That means... He paused, letting the silence grow. The golem did not die from an orc attack. It suffered a rune overload. Gasps spread like a wave across the arena. What does that mean? Someone yelled. It means, Eric said clearly, someone tampered with old Bricker. Tyrion's face went pale for a second, just a second, before he forced a smile. This is nonsense. Human tricks. Eric put the charged rune fragment on the ground. It glowed faintly. The crowd whispered. Grumak speaks. Eric turned to the orc. Grumak, tell them what you told me. Grumak swallowed hard. Speaking in front of thousands terrified him, but Eric nodded reassuringly. The golem attacked me first, Grumak said. Its eyes turned red. It carried a heavy crate. Then something exploded from its chest. I burned my arm trying to block it. People looked at his burned arm. The shape really did match a rune burn. Eric continued, an orc cannot cause a rune explosion. But a mage can. Or a council official. Or someone who wanted a reason to punish an orc. The arena buzzed with confusion. Doubt grew stronger. Fear grew sharper. And Tyrion's confidence began to crack. The council panics. One of the council members whispered to Tryon, should we stop this? Tryon clenched his teeth. No. We cannot show fear. But he was afraid. Because Eric wasn't shouting. He wasn't emotional. He wasn't angry. He was logical. Come. Dangerous. Logic spreads like fire, quiet at first, then impossible to stop. And in that moment, Tryon realized something terrifying. The city was listening to the human. A final blow. Eric took a deep breath and pointed to the rune fragment again. This piece proves sabotage. And if old Bricker was sabotaged, then the orc is not the killer. The crowd fell silent. Totally silent. Someone whispered, then who did it? Eric looked directly at the council members. I intend to find out. But first, release Grumak. Tryon shot to his feet. Absolutely not. Eric looked at him with calm eyes. Then the council is hiding something. The crowd gasped loudly. Tryon froze. Grumak stared in disbelief. And the trial, once certain and simple, was suddenly in chaos. Because one human using logic had turned the entire case upside down. The arena felt different now. Where there had been shouting and anger, there was now a heavy silence. Tight, watching, waiting. The people of Varan Coast were confused, unsure, and for the first time, thinking. And that terrified the council. Councillor Tryon stood stiff as stone, his jaw tight, eyes burning with irritation. This trial was supposed to be easy, quick, and public. A clean display of power. But a human scholar had ruined everything. Eric stepped forward again, calm but sharp like a blade. If you wish for truth, he spoke clearly, then we must investigate without fear. Tryon snapped, there is no need. The orc killed the golem and that is final. Eric tilted his head slightly. Final? Or convenient? Gasps filled the arena. Tryon felt anger boiling in his chest, but showing anger meant losing control. So he forced himself to smile calmly, though his eyes betrayed panic. Eric points to the real crime scene. The golem's body is still at the docks, Eric said. If the council truly wants justice, we should examine it, publicly. People murmured in agreement. A fisherman shouted, aye. Let us see it. Show the body. Prove the orc did it. Tryon tried to cut in. No. The docks are sealed for investigation. Eric looked around at the crowd. Sealed? By who? By the council, of course. Tryon snapped. Eric tapped the rune fragment in his hand. Then why does this piece come from inside the sealed area? The crowd roared. Tryon went pale. He hadn't expected Eric to already have evidence from inside the restricted zone. And if the council had sealed it, then how did the human get inside? Tryon had no answer. Eric continued, if you truly believe the orc is guilty, then you should have nothing to fear. He paused. Unless this is not about the truth. A woman near the front shouted, let them check the docks. A man called out, yes. We want answers. The crowd's support was shifting. Away from Tryon. Toward Eric. And Tryon hated it. The walk to the docks. Against his will, Tryon ordered, fine. We will go to the docks. But this is a waste of time. The arena emptied quickly as thousands followed Eric, the guards, the council, and the chained orc toward the water. The docks were quiet and filled with the smell of salt and wood. Ships rocked gently. And on one side, behind a rope barrier, lay the broken body of old Bricker, the city's beloved clay golem. Clay pieces were scattered. The chest was cracked. Runes were faint but still visible. As soon as the crowd saw the damage up close, they froze. Someone whispered, "This looks like an explosion." Someone else murmured, "Orc fists can't do that." Eric knelt beside the golem, studying the cracked chest again. "Look here." He pointed to deep circular burn marks. "These shapes come only from magic discharge, not physical impact." A young boy tugged his father's sleeve. "Papa, what does that mean?" "It means the golem fired its own magic," Eric answered. "But why would it do that?" the father asked. Eric's expression darkened. "Because someone activated its combat mode." The crowd murmured loudly. Old Bricker had worked peacefully for generations. Why would a worker golem suddenly become a weapon? The memory runes. Eric brushed away dirt and revealed a row of tiny runes behind the golem's head. "These," he explained, "are memory runes. They record the golem's actions and commands." Tryon stiffened. Memory runes could reveal everything. Eric placed his hand on them. But someone tried to erase them. The runes were cracked and burned. Eric frowned. "This is sabotage. Professional sabotage." People gasped. Voices rose in fear. One woman said sharply, "So the orc really is innocent?" Tryon snapped, "No. He could have done this himself. Orcs do not use rune magic." Eric replied. A mage from the crowd shouted, "He's right. Orcs live by muscle, not magic." A fisherman yelled, "Then who did this?" The entire crowd turned toward the council. Tryon felt sweat on his forehead. Eric stood and addressed everyone. Only someone with access, knowledge of runes, and a reason to hide the truth would do this. He paused. Someone with power. The crowd gasped again. Tryon felt his heart race. Eric walked toward the broken chest. "I also found something else." He pulled out a small, broken metal tool with golden edges. "This tool is used by council engineers. Only they have permission to maintain city constructs." The crowd erupted. "What? The council did this?" "They killed old Bricker." Tryon explained. Tryon shouted, "Stop this madness. He is lying." Eric raised the tool high so everyone could see. This came from inside the golem. It is marked with the council's symbol. The symbol gleamed in the sunlight. A perfect match. Tryon staggered back as if struck. Suspicion falls on the council. People crowded closer, anger rising like a storm. "You blamed the orc to hide this. You lied to us. You used old Bricker as a weapon. You tried to execute an innocent man." Guards began shifting nervously. Council members whispered in panic. For the first time, the city didn't fear the council. The council feared the city. Eric's final words. Eric rested a hand on Grumak's shoulder. "The truth is clear. The orc is innocent. You nearly killed him for a crime he did not commit." Silence spread again. Heavy. Cold. Powerful. Eric looked at Tryon. "And now, we must discover who really ordered the golem's combat mode activated." Tyrion's face twisted with dread. Because he knew the truth. And he knew Eric was getting very, very close. The trial hall of Silvergate felt tense the next morning. People filled every seat. Some even stood along the walls, whispering and pointing at the chains on Grok's wrists. Everyone wanted the same thing, an execution. The city believed it was justice. The city believed it was deserved. Except one person. Marcus, the human investigator, walked into the courtroom with calm steps. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. He had spent the whole night studying reports, speaking with guards, and checking the crime scene. He did not look confident, but he looked ready. The judge, an older elf with silver hair, stared at him. "Human," the judge said, "your time is limited. The council already sees this case is solved." Marcus nodded. "Then I won't waste time." Grok sat behind Marcus, chained to the ground. He kept his head down. He did not expect help. He did not expect hope. He only waited for the end. But Marcus had something different planned. Marcus begins with a simple question. Marcus stepped into the center of the hall. "I want to ask one question," he said. "Not to the court. Not to the city. To Grok himself." The crowd hissed. "Why ask the beast?" someone shouted. "He only lies," another voice yelled. The judge raised a hand. "Order." Marcus looked at Grok. "Why were you near the marketplace that night?" Grok lifted his head slightly. His voice was low. I was helping a child. The hall exploded with laughter and anger. A child? Lies. Orcs don't save kids. He thinks we are fools. But Marcus didn't laugh. What child? He asked calmly. Grok hesitated. A little girl. She was lost. I walked her home. The judge frowned. There is no report of this. Marcus smiled slightly. Because nobody asked. The hall fell silent. Marcus reveals the first strange detail. Marcus walked toward the crime board. It showed the market, the broken stall, and the human victim, a man named Roderick. Look at this, Marcus said. The murder happened at midnight. But the attack on the stall happened at 11:15. He circled 2 different areas. 2 events. Not one. The city mixed them together because they were close in time, and because Grok was the closest creature they hated. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Marcus continued. Now the important part, Roderick's wounds. He lifted a medical sketch. They are deep. Clean. Sure. These are blade wounds. He looked at Grok. Grok, show the court your hands. The orc obeyed. His claws were thick and dull. Made for strength, not cutting. Grok cannot make clean blade wounds, Marcus said. An orc strike crushes bones. It does not slice. Whispers began spreading across the room. Marcus shows the second shocking detail. Marcus raised another sketch. Roderick was attacked from behind. The judge nodded. Yes. So, Marcus said, look at Grok. His height. His angle of reach. If Grok struck from behind, the wounds would go downward. He tapped the sketch. These wounds go upward. The room froze. Someone in the crowd whispered, upward? Like from someone shorter? Yes, Marcus said. Someone smaller than Grok. Someone human. Gasps filled the hall. Marcus brings out the secret witness. Marcus turned toward the door. I would like to call my witness. The doors opened slowly. A child stepped inside. A human child. A girl with brown hair and shaking hands. The hall erupted. What is a child doing here? This is madness. Send her out. But the judge raised his staff. Quiet. Let the witness speak. The little girl walked to Marcus. She clutched his coat nervously. Marcus knelt. Tell the court what you told me. The girl swallowed. I got lost that night. My parents were fighting again. I ran out. I couldn't find the way home. She looked at Grok. He found me. The orc. He didn't hurt me. He gave me his cloak so I wouldn't be cold, and he walked me home. A wave of emotion passed through the crowd. Shock, disbelief, confusion. And when he left you? Marcus asked. He went toward the city square, she whispered. But someone else was there too. Someone else. The hall leaned in. Who? The judge asked. The girl pointed to a guard standing near the entrance. A guard wearing a city crest. That man, she said quietly. He was following the market man. He had a knife. The guard froze. The crowd gasped. Marcus stood and turned slowly toward the accused guard, his expression calm but sharp as a blade. The courtroom explodes in chaos. The guard tried to step back, but 2 other guards grabbed him. Let me go, he shouted. Marcus pointed at him. That man had a gambling debt. A big one. Roderick refused to help him pay it. So he killed him, then smashed the stall to make it look like an orc attack. People yelled. Is this true? Did a human kill another human and blame the orc? He tried to fool the whole city. The guard screamed curses as he was dragged away. The judge hit his staff. Silence. The hall went still. Then the judge said the first words that gave Grok hope. This orc is innocent. Grok closed his eyes. His chest shook. For the first time he looked like someone who believed he might live. And Marcus? He simply lowered his head. Because he had only done what humans do best. Use logic. Ask the right questions. And refused to let a city kill the wrong person. The courtroom emptied slowly after the shocking truth came out. People whispered as they left. Some embarrassed, some confused, some angry that their assumptions had been wrong. But one thing was certain. No one saw orcs the same way anymore. And no one looked at Marcus the same way either. Inside the quiet hall, Grok still sat in chains. Even though the judge had declared him innocent, the guards had not yet released him. The city had hated orcs for so long that even the truth needed time to settle. Marcus walked toward him. You will be free soon, Marcus said. Grok looked up. His eyes were still full of shock, disbelief, and something very rare for an orc, fear. Why did you help me? Grok asked in a slow, rough voice. No human ever does. Marcus sighed. Because justice matters. And because you deserved someone to listen. He turned to the guards. Take off his chains. But the guards hesitated. He is still an orc, one of them muttered. What if he runs? Said another. Marcus fixed them with a cold glare. He stayed for the trial. He saved a child. The real killer is already in chains. Let him go. The guards finally obeyed. The heavy chains fell to the floor. Grok rubbed his wrists. For the first time in years he wasn't chained like an animal. The city was not ready for the truth. Outside the courthouse things were not peaceful. A crowd had gathered, angry, loud, and full of fear. Word had spread that an orc had been declared innocent. Many people refused to believe it. Some shouted that the judge was corrupt. Others said the child witness was lying. Some even claimed Marcus used human tricks to confuse everyone. When Marcus stepped outside with Grok walking behind him, the shouting became worse. There. That human freed the beast. Keep the orc away from our streets. He is dangerous. Grok stopped. His muscles tightened. His instinct was to defend himself, but he stayed calm for Marcus's sake. Marcus whispered, "Ignore them. Walk with me." But the people continued yelling. One man threw a stone. It hit Grok in the shoulder. The orc did not react, he simply stood still. But the crowd took his silence as a challenge. More stones followed. Marcus stepped in front of him. He raised his voice, loud, sharp, and full of anger. Enough. The crowd froze. Humans were used to humans shouting, but Marcus's tone had something else: authority. If you believe he is guilty, Marcus said, then show proof. If you believe he is dangerous, then explain why he saved a child. If you believe lies, then understand that fear is controlling you, not truth. Some people lowered their eyes. Some turned away. But many still refused to accept the truth. You're protecting a monster, a woman screamed. Marcus shook his head. No. I'm protecting an innocent person. The word person hit the crowd like a shockwave. No one had ever called an orc a person before. The judge takes a side. The courthouse doors opened again. The judge stepped outside, followed by city guards. Citizens of Silvergate, he announced, the orc Grok is free. The human guard will face trial. Justice has been served. But the crowd grew louder with their anger. The judge raised a hand. I also declare this: if anyone attacks Grok, they will be punished as criminals. Hate is not law. This caused even more shock. The city had never heard a judge defend an orc. Marcus whispered to Grok, "Stay close. We'll get you somewhere safe." Grok nodded, but he looked overwhelmed. No one had ever defended him before, not the city, not the judge, not any human, until now. The walk through the city. Marcus led Grok down the main street. Shops closed their doors. People stared. Some moved aside quickly, afraid. But others watched quietly, thinking. Their eyes no longer held pure hatred. Some held questions. Others held guilt. A few children even pointed curiously, not with fear but with interest. Grok noticed this and whispered, "Humans confuse me." Marcus smiled slightly. Humans confuse humans too. For the first time, Grok gave a tiny smile back. A new problem emerges. As they reached the far end of the street, a young messenger ran toward them. "Investigator Marcus," he shouted. "The mayor wants to see you. Immediately." Marcus frowned. "Now. Why?" The messenger looked nervous. "Because the council is angry. Very angry. They say your investigation embarrassed the city. They say you overstepped your authority." Marcus's jaw tightened. "So they want to punish me?" he asked. The messenger swallowed. "Not exactly. They want to reopen the case." Grok tensed. "Reopen?" Marcus shook his head. "They want to find a way to blame you again." The messenger nodded. "And they want you both to come at once." Grok looked at Marcus, confused and worried. "I thought I was free." "You were," Marcus said softly. "But freedom in this city is fragile." He sighed. "But we won't run. We'll face them together." Grok stared at him. "Together?" "Yes," Marcus said. "Because this is bigger than just you. This city needs to learn the truth, not just one truth but all of it." He placed a hand on Grok's arm. "Let's finish what we started." And with that, the human and the orc walked toward the mayor's hall, side by side. The city watched them go. Some with fear. Some with anger. But some with hope. Because something had started. Something the city could no longer ignore. The mayor's hall was the largest, most powerful building in Silvergate. Tall stone pillars. Golden banners. Guards at every door. A place meant to control fear, not solve it. Marcus and Grok walked inside together. People stepped back as they entered, some scared, some angry, some whispering under their breath. Grok kept his head down. He had stood on battlefields before, but this fear, this judgment, it was different. It felt heavier. Marcus walked calmly, though his mind raced. He knew the council would try to twist the truth. He knew they wanted a reason to keep their old laws the same. And he knew the city was holding its breath. The council that wanted silence. Inside the grand chamber, the council sat in a half-circle on high seats. 7 elders, each one known for strict traditions. The mayor, an old man with sharp eyes, stood in the center. "Marcus," he said in a cold voice, "you have caused chaos in the city." Marcus didn't bow. He simply replied, "Truth causes chaos when people fear it." A few council members shifted uncomfortably. The mayor pointed toward Grok. "And you," he said, "an orc free and walking in our city. This has never happened. You should not be here." Grok said nothing. His hands clenched at his sides. Marcus stepped forward. "He is here because he is innocent." The mayor's eyes narrowed. "Innocent or not, the people are afraid. And because of your actions, Marcus, they question our authority." There was the real problem. Not justice. Not truth. Just power. Marcus realized it fully now. A trial that was not a trial. The mayor raised his voice. "This is not an official trial. This is a hearing for the safety of Silvergate. And for that, we must decide, should an orc be allowed to walk free among us?" The council murmured. The question was clear. They were not judging the case anymore. They were judging Grok's right to even exist in their city. Marcus looked around the room and spoke firmly. "You asked the wrong question." The hall fell silent. Marcus continued, "You should ask, why do we fear an innocent man?" One counselor slammed his hand on the table. "Because he is an orc. Their kind destroys, attacks, kills." Marcus pointed at Grok. "And this orc risked his life for a child." Another counselor glared. "Maybe to trick us." Marcus's voice rose. "Did he also trick the golem to malfunction? Did he trick your own guard into a drunken mistake? Did he trick the child's memory?" Silence. Everyone felt the weight of those words. The human who would not be silent. Marcus took a slow breath. "You can fear him if you want," he said. "But your fear does not change the truth." He turned to the mayor. "If you choose to punish him, you choose a lie." The mayor's jaw tightened. "You speak boldly, Marcus. Perhaps too boldly." Marcus stared directly at him. "Sometimes you must be loud, if the truth is being buried." The council did not like this. They whispered among themselves. Some angry. Some unsure. And for the first time, Grok slowly lifted his head. "May I speak?" Everyone froze. No orc had ever spoken in the mayor's hall. The mayor hesitated, then nodded. Grok stepped forward. "The orc speaks the words no one expected." Grok's voice was deep but controlled. "I know you fear me. My kind has done terrible things. I cannot change the past." He paused, looking at his own hands, hands that had once held weapons. "But I did not come here to fight. I came to work. I came to live. I came to be better." His eyes softened with sadness. "When I saved that child, I did not think. I only acted. Because anyone would save a child." The hall trembled with the emotion in his voice. Grok continued. "You can hate me, and I will understand. But do not punish me for something I did not do." Even Marcus felt his chest tighten. Grok had never sounded more human. A decision no one expected. The council looked shaken. Even the mayor could not hide the uncertainty in his eyes. After a long silence, the mayor spoke. "We will vote." One by one, the council members raised their hands. "Not guilty. Not guilty. Not guilty." 7 votes. 7 decisions. All the same. The mayor stood slowly. "Grok of the southern tribes, you are declared innocent and free to stay in Silvergate." Grok blinked in disbelief. Marcus smiled, finally relieved. But the mayor was not finished. "And Marcus," he said, turning to him, "your courage and logic have forced the city to face a truth long ignored. For that, you will be appointed as Silvergate's new chief investigator." Whispers filled the hall. A human investigator protecting an orc? A council respecting human logic? A city forced to change? This had never happened before. The city changed forever. Marcus and Grok walked out of the hall together. This time the crowd outside was different. No shouting. No stones. No hatred. Only silence. Then, A little human girl stepped forward, the same girl Grok had saved. She walked up to Grok and gently touched his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. And that was it. That simple word broke the wall around the city's heart. Others stepped forward. Slowly. Carefully. Curiously. For the first time in Silvergate's history, humans saw an orc not as a monster, but as someone who deserved to live. Someone who deserved to be understood. Someone who deserved justice. The ending, and the beginning. Marcus looked at the city around him. "This is not the end," he said to Grok. Grok nodded. "No. This is the